this is an overview of Infor Expense Management. My name is Scott Eisenbacher, and I'm a Senior Business Consultant with Infor. So let's start off with what is Infor Expense Management? Infor Expense Management is a suite of products, and they're separate modules, so an organization can choose to license them individually. They don't have to take the entire suite, nor do they get the entire suite with purchasing Infor Expense Management. Most of our customers acquire the expense report modules as that initial starting point, but we do have customers that use the full suite as well. Expense reports is for automating that employee reimbursement process for travel expenses. We also have travel plans that's used for pre-trip authorization prior to taking a trip, getting it reviewed and approved, and workflowed around the organization to approve that travel before it's taken. We also have online booking capabilities, so if an organization has online booking, then travel plans may not be applicable. If they do not have online booking, then a pre-trip authorization would be done, and it would be applicable to use travel plans then. We also have payment requests, which is that employee-initiated automation of requests for payment to vendor, which are typically not on a purchase order process. So it's for those things most organizations call check requests, handwritten forms that come in to pay a vendor for things like magazine subscriptions, deposits, taxes, those things that do not typically flow through a purchase order process. Then we also have time tracking, where most of our customers use that for collecting time for billing purposes to their customers. So they'll collect both the expenses through expense reports and time through the time tracking, combine them together for billing purposes back to customers. But it can also be used internally at an organization to capture that time for perhaps bill-back purposes internally for projects that are taking place. Foundationally, we have the capabilities across all the modules, so enforcing policy compliance. So doing that in the case of expense reports, your travel policy being enforced during data entry by the travelers in the application. Also having mobile capabilities for review and approval, as well as capturing of expenses while you're on the go when using expense reports. Also spend analytics, getting the visibility into the information that's being collected across the suite or within expense reports, if that's the only module you have, to get that deeper insight into where your spend is going, who you're spending your money with, those types of business questions that can help better negotiate and have leverage in doing that intelligently. Also, the application can be deployed in cloud through Amazon Web Services or on-premise, which would be behind the company's firewall, managed and operated by the organization. It's the same application in either case, so there is no separation between the two. Same application, it's just a choice of how it's to be deployed. And then, of course, having the inbound and outbound integration methodologies for interchanging data back and forth. So taking information from your financial system, HR system, payroll system, bringing that into expense management, and then as well as then putting out information back to the financial systems for reimbursement purposes as well as to your general ledger. Also interfaces with corporate credit card companies for bringing in electronic transactions from your corporate credit card, and as mentioned before, interacting with online booking systems as well. But also having that open methodology for any system. So if a company has a project management system, being able to interact with that as well with the application inbound and outbound. With that, let's move into a demonstration now of the actual software. We're going to begin a quick high-level demonstration of the Infor Expense Management application. Starts off by authenticating yourself as a user to the system, and there's multiple methods in which to do that. But once you do, in logging in, and we're going to start off as a traveler here to begin with, and then we'll move through the process of approver and also back office as well. But as a traveler, when you first come in, you're taken to your home page. This is that launch-off point to starting a new document, new expense report, and that's what we're going to focus on today for the demonstration is expense reports. But keep in mind that those other modules are available as well. So if you do have the suite or you have a mix or blend of the applications, you'll see the modules, you'll see that those will be listed here. But in a self-service way, you as a traveler can, from your home page, check the status of your expense report document that you have in process within the automated workflow, and also see who has it as a part of those steps that it's going through within the automated workflow. Really reduces a lot of calls into the back office asking where's the expense report, who has it. You eliminate lost documents, all from just having a capability to electronically check that status in a self-service way. So let's begin the process of creating a new expense report. It's as simple and as easy as saying, give me a new blank form, where you're going to begin the completion process of all the required fields and information that's being asked from the expense report. Starts off with some general information here that can be easily captured. So what is your expense report? What is your trip? However you want to title it so it's more easily found by you as a traveler later on if you historically search for it. So I'm just going to say this was perhaps a conference that I went to. I need to gather up my travel expenses in regards to that. Again, the system is highly configurable, so you'll have drop-down choices, making it very easy to complete an expense report with chosen values, or even in some cases, the ability to add your own values to these drop-down lists as well. I've gathered up the general information, and now I proceed forward to gathering up the details about each of the expense items that I had that was a part of my travel. So you can mix in both cash, out-of-pocket type transactions, or you can also blend in corporate credit card transactions all into the same expense report. Or you can even start the process of preloading it from an itinerary electronically from that travel management company that you might be doing business with for your organization. So in this case, we're going to start by loading that itinerary. So I went out to an online booking system that my organization had, filled out and did my shopping, and completed that shopping experience and generated an itinerary for my travel to this conference. Once I've completed my travel, I'll see those listed here, those itineraries that I might have booked, and then be able to select the one that applies to this expense report that I'm filling out now, and then be able to quickly, easily, and seamlessly bring in and preload the expense report with those transactions. Now from here, I can go into these individual items and reconcile them with what actually happened, because this is just saying what I was going to do. Now I need to tie that with what actually happened with the actual expense. So in doing that, I can reconcile these charges either with cash out of pocket, or most typically, you reconcile it with the corporate credit card, because most organizations, that's where the charge is going to come through from an actual perspective. So we can see here that of my booking, which was $504, we can see that my actual expense was $648. So there is a difference between what I said I was going to do and what I actually did. So again, that's that reconciliation process after loading an itinerary into the expense report. And again, I'll do this with each of the items. Let me go back. I hit airfare again, so let me go to car rental and do the very same reconciliation process. Very quick, simple, and easy to tie that information together. Now, I brought in that itinerary. I reconciled it with some corporate credit card transactions. Now I can go out and mix in any other expenses that you might have as a part of your travel. So you have your selection list, and again, this list is configurable, and be able to go out. I'm just using type ahead here to filter my list for the items that I may be looking for from an expense entry perspective. In this case, let's say I had a taxi as well, charge for my travels, and be able to then complete the required information for that expense, and then add that to my expense report as well. Again, the system is highly configurable, so you can add additional information, have additional required information, whatever the organization might need. From a digital receipt perspective, again, I can capture this via scanning it, and if I scanned it, I can go out and search for that particular graphic file, PDF, GIF, TIFF, bitmap, any of those are supported. Those that I sent into my receipt store, because maybe I got it as an email and I just forwarded that to the system, it would then take that and put it into my receipt store. or I can also do it via my mobile phone, taking a picture and attaching it right at the time of doing the entry on my mobile phone. But here you can see it's just drag and drop to attach that digital documentation to this expense item in my expense report. Then be able to save that information as well. So I'm just going to come down and say this was a cash transaction. And you'll see now I have a blend of both corporate credit card and cash out of pocket, as well as attached an associated receipt to that item digitally here for review later on, both by yourself as well as everyone downstream. Now, once I've completed my entry of all my expenses, I can add many more here to complete out the rest of my travel. But once you're done, you can then just submit this into the automated workflow process, which I'm going to do now. So as you choose to submit this, it sends it off into the electronic workflow process and immediately sends it to who should be doing the review of that particular expense report. So in this case, John Jones, Joe's manager, receives an email notification, as well as seeing this then in his queue when he logs in to the system as an approver. Now, John can log in to the system, as I mentioned, or he can also be on the road, be using his mobile device. And what I'm going to do now is share up my iPhone so that as a reviewer, you can be doing work on the go as well. So being able to no longer have work sit idle, because you could use an iPad, your smartphone device, to be able to go out and do that same work while you're on the go. Now, you can use a browser or install an app for the iDevices or Android. And you'll see in the upper left-hand corner there, I have my mobile app on my iPhone here installed. And it gives me that ability to then log in and do work on the go. So I'm logging in as that manager approver. And I, of course, will have my own expense reports that I'm doing, so you'll see those in my inbox. But you'll also have your review queue if you're an approver, and then be able to see the information here in a thumb scrollable format within the mobile environment. So I can go down, see that expense report that we just completed, view the attachments that we put on digitally, be able to go in and see the details by opening the document itself and all its associated line items, all the accounting impact, again, in the thumb scrolling format. Collapse and expand areas to quickly review information. There are the details. You can expand any of those to see further details below it, and then take action on it right here within the mobile environment. So in this case, I can approve it moving it forward. I could also reject it or return it for more information, depending upon my approval choice here at this time. So very quick, simple, and easy, using the mobile platforms to get work done while you're on the go. Now if we go back here and we're still logged in as Joe, and we can see as a part of that review approval that took place by John, the manager, this document is in real time moved in the workflow process and is now in back office audit review. So let's go in very quickly at this last step in the process, which is that optional intelligent audit step, where you can have documents captured and then routed to the back office for their review, perhaps prior to reimbursement taking place. You can have these audit flags and queues set up so it very quickly lets the auditors in the back office know what they should be focusing on and looking at within the respective documents. In this case, Joe is on the audit list, and he gets audited 100% of the time for all of his expenses. So the auditor is going to go in and then be able to look at all the line items, the associated digital receipts, all the information, and do their review as necessary. Again, just by opening up any line item can give them that further detail and make any adjustments that they might need to do as an auditor in the back office, whether it be reallocate the expenses, approve it for an alternate amount, making any of those types of adjustments. And then once audit is satisfied with their review, then they can approve it, reject it, return it for more information, whatever their election is. If they approve it, it then moves on in the process and moves to reimbursement to the financial systems to handle that, whether it be through payroll, accounts payable, and then ultimately hitting the general ledger. Thank you very much, and have a good day.